This is episode 78 of our Thursday webinar. We used to only talk about heart health on Thursdays. Today, or moving forward, we're talking about home cures that work. Where did we get that name? I'm glad you asked. Well, we have a publication that Barton has put out since, do you know what year?
Oh, I don't know. It's like almost 20 years. It's a long time.
So Dr. Saunders has helped to write for this publication, and Cheryl, who's often on these webinars, helps with it as well. I think she's our editor, and but anyway, it's all these. I don't want to call them random, but all of these interesting health things that otherwise you might not be able to find a lot of information on. I feel like so. We wanted to tap into some of these great topics and articles and do that on Thursdays. And so Wednesdays, you'll find us talking about type 2 diabetes, and you'll find us talking about keeping our hearts healthy. And so we'll rotate those topics on Wednesdays. If you are thinking, okay, great, I want to sign up for those. Well, if you're on Zoom right now, you're already signed up for the Thursday webinar. And if you aren't sure if you are or whatever, you can go to bartonwebinar.com and sign up for those. There's a place there for you to register for both of them, and they're free. They're free. All right.
I think it's so cool that David's here from Colombia. I just think that, David, I lived in Venezuela when I was in college. I spent 2 years in Venezuela as a missionary, and I knew a lot of Colombians. And in those days, Venezuelans were okay with Colombians, and now I know there's a little bit of a they're not exactly liking each other these days. But anyway, I think that's fun. So random thought. I was just watching this video on the pyramids of Egypt. So the Great Pyramid, the biggest one, right? Where is it? I forgot. Anyway, the biggest one. It turns out that the pyramid has four sides. It's like a square. And if you look at it from above, it looks like a square. But if the light's just right, you can see that actually each side is angled a little bit. So there's actually 8 sides. So if you ever get the question, how many sides does the Great Pyramid have? It has 8 sides, not 4.
Very good. Now I want to look up pictures. Probably have to do that in a little bit. We'll see. Well, today's going to be a good topic. We're going to talk about this. Actually, this topic did come up recently, and we're going to really dig into it a little bit more. I hear people talk about leaky gut, and I'm going to be honest. When I think of leaky gut, it's not pretty stuff that I'm imagining, because when it sounds like your gut is leaking, doesn't it just kind of sound like you're having some incontinence or something? I don't know. It doesn't sound right. And so I always am just really appreciative of your teachings on this, because I think a lot of people experience leaky gut, and it may not be what you think it is. And so we actually, Dr. Saunders did a Home Cures That Work article about this. I think, was it this month, or when was it? It was. Okay, so this was very recent. And so you're getting it for free today, guys. We're going to dig into it and talk about it. Feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A. If you are on Zoom, that's kind of just the best place for us to manage those. If you're watching on YouTube, you can comment. We'll get to those when we can. All right, so I want to dig into this. And first of all, what exactly is leaky gut?
Okay, so as to whether leaky gut exists or not, there is controversy. If you talk to your gastroenterologist, a lot of gastroenterologists will say, there's no such thing as leaky gut. That's a myth. That doesn't really happen. No, guts don't leak and all of that. Well, it turns out they're wrong, that leaky gut is a real thing. It's something that really happens. So this is the cool thing. The intestines are so amazing. You wouldn't believe it. So my skin right here has like 40 layers of cells that are packed on top of each other to protect me. So if I scratch, I'm not going to break a blood vessel or get to the nerves or get pain or bleed or anything like that. So I have protection from my skin right here. On my palm, it's probably 100. On my soles of my feet, there's probably several hundred layers of skin that are protecting the inside of my body. Well, we don't think about this, but your intestines, the inside of your intestines is not part of your body. It's outside your body. So the body is like a tube, where the body is the actual plastic or whatever, the material of the tube. And then you have an outside skin and you have an inside, and there's skin protecting that too. So all the way through your intestines, you have skin that keeps all of the outside junk, because you're shoving stuff in there, right, from the outside, and it's still outside your body. And you put it in your mouth and it goes all the way through and comes out the other side, right? It's still, all of that is outside your body. And there's skin protecting you. And that layer of skin, it's only one layer. I have like 30, 40, or 100 on the bottom of my feet. There's only one single cell layer that is protecting the entire inside of that, the lining of my intestines. Why is that? Well, think about it. If you had to pull all your nutrients through 10 layers of cells, you're going to miss a lot of nutrients. You're not going to get everything. One cell can go, oh, there's a vitamin B12. Boop, I'll pull that through. Oh, vitamin D, I want one of those. Boop, pull that through. And they just like pulling stuff right into the blood directly so you can absorb all your nutrients. Well, how does it, this little tube, how does it absorb nutrients? It has they're called microvilli, and they're just bumps inside there. It's like, when you look at it, it looks kind of hairy. But they're like bumps. It's not like perfectly smooth layer of skin like your skin is. It's got all these little bumps in it, and that's all lined with one cell layer. If you were to take all of your intestine and put it out flat, it would be the size of a tennis court. And that's the actual tennis court, the lines of where the net is. And so think about that. Think if you were to take, think of dinner last night, all that dinner you ate, put it on a plate, mash it up, and then spread it out over the whole tennis court. How thin would it be? It would be microscopic thin. That's why your intestines can absorb all your nutrients. It's going through this whole thing, this big layer, like as big as a tennis court, being spread out, and then it's digested and then absorbed really well. And so ideally you absorb everything you need. So every little bit of sugar is absorbed, every little bit of vitamin B12 is absorbed. In fact, in some layers, in some areas of the small intestine, and there's one 18-inch air place in your small intestine where you can absorb vitamin B12. That's it. You don't absorb it up there. You don't absorb it down there. It's just right here, called terminal ileum. And there's little sensors in there, and they go, ooh, vitamin B12. And then so they push it down and they push it back and they push it down. Your food is going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until they don't detect any more vitamin B12. I don't taste any vitamin B12. Okay, move it down. And it moves down to the next layer. Isn't that amazing? I mean, this is stuff that is like, it's intelligent. Yeah. It's intelligent. That's the amazing thing. But what happens if your one cell layer has holes in it? And it does get holes in it easily. Think about, you can scratch cells off just going like that. You go, well, scratch some cells off. But I got 20 more layers underneath, so who cares? But what if it's in your intestines? You scratch a few cells layers off, there's no protection. That food or toxins or whatever proteins and stuff that aren't supposed to be there go directly through right into your intestines, right past your intestines into your blood. And so your blood goes through your liver. Your liver's got to detox all this stuff. Oh my gosh, all these toxins. And then so you're constantly detoxing. So a lot of times you don't notice it because the liver's detoxing really well. You don't notice that you have leaky gut. But sometimes it overloads the liver and you start getting really toxic. And then you start making antibodies against all those proteins, because the antibodies, the immune system has to clean all that mess up. So then you get food sensitivities, and that's a sign of leaky gut. So sometimes people will get inflammation from the immune system reacting to it. And that might be diarrhea, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, pain, cramping, all of those kind of things, those intestinal problems. And those may be signs of leaky gut, but it's amazing how many people have terrible leaky gut and don't even know it. Like people with celiac disease often don't even know they have celiac disease until they come up with some deficiency syndrome like B12 deficiency or something like that, because celiac disease is leaky gut. Because what happens is there's cells missing, so there's holes in the intestines, so stuff just leaks right in, just goes right into the blood. And then what if this cell goes, ooh, there's a vitamin B12, pulls it in, and then it leaks right back out. So you can't keep your nutrients in, and you can't keep the bad stuff out because you don't have that barrier anymore. So leaky gut is a lack of barrier. And so in research circles, it's called intestinal permeability. Permeability, the cells keep things that are supposed to be in, and things that are supposed to be out. That's the intestinal barrier. When it's compromised in some way, then it doesn't do that. So what compromises it? What could cause that? Well, one of the things you've probably heard about is lectins. Lectins are proteins that are kind of like the immune system of plants against animals. It protects them from fungi and protein and bugs and stuff like that. So the immune system of the plant, when you eat those lectins, they bind to glycoproteins on the cells and stop the cells from dividing. So if there's a gap somewhere, they can't divide and fill the gap. So it ends up creating leaky gut. That's kind of common. There are lectins that are so toxic that they will kill you. If you were to eat just a handful of raw red beans, like kidney beans, you could die eating raw ones. And so have you ever had kidney beans? Yeah, I've had a ton of kidney beans. What the heck? I didn't die. No, because they're cooked. And when they're cooked, it denatures those proteins, those lectins. And so it's not an issue. But some things like, have you ever had castor oil? Castor oil.
Eaten it, but
yeah, I know.
I just want to see. I just want to show you this. Okay, so this is kind of what you're saying, right? So here's some lectin. The lectin comes in. Is this right? So you can kind of
it binds onto that glycoprotein and it stops the cell membrane, or it stops the cell from reproducing.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you hear, all of these things. The first, okay, talk to us a little bit more about some lectins. So, in some beans, where else do we find lectins?
All plants, in fact, every living thing has some kind of lectins, but plants, it's their immune system, so they all have it. But most lectins are not an issue at all. They bind some glycoproteins or sugars on the outsides of cells and stuff. But some are super toxic, like the red beans or the castor beans. You can't eat raw castor beans. 3 castor beans will kill you. And this is, if you ever heard of ricin, it's a serious toxin. There's no antidote for it. If you get ricin poisoning, you're gonna die. There's just no way around that. So because it blocks you from making proteins, and so you can't make proteins and you die. Anyway, so some of these lectins are really, really toxic, and most of them are kind of benign. And you have lectins on corn, and you eat a bunch of corn. You can eat raw corn; it's not a big deal. And so the lectins don't hurt you. Nuts, you can have almonds. Raw almonds have lectins on them, and the roasted almonds, they're pretty much destroyed. But you can eat raw almonds, and they're not going to hurt you necessarily. So, how do you get around that? People have lived for thousands of years. There's several doctors that are saying that you should never eat lectins. You should never eat anything that has lectins. This is horrible. These are toxic. They're bad for your intestines. They cause leaky gut. Is that true? Yeah, it is. But if you cook them, not a problem. Okay. What if you don't cook them all or something like that, and some of them bind? there's another issue that you can deal with, and that is give your gut time to repair. Because you ever stop eating like you're not eating and your stomach starts growling and you go growl, growl, growl. Your stomach's making all this noise. Why is it doing that? It's cleaning. Your stomach in between meals, your intestines clean out, and they put gallons of fluid through there, and they're brushing in there and they're cleaning out, and it is active cleaning. And they push it all through into the large intestine. The large intestine reabsorbs the water and leaves all the bacteria and crap literally in your large intestine. And that's how the system works. It's a beautiful system. And as it's cleaning out, it cleans out the lectins, and then your gut repairs. But what if you never give it time to repair? What if, oh, my stomach's growling, I got to eat something. Oh no. Then you start stuffing your face full of stuff. And then every time your stomach gets empty and starts growling, you stuff your face with it. Guess what? The cleaning stops as soon as you eat. It's done. And so you just keep your leaky gut. And then you add on more food and get more leaky gut. Then you add on more food, get more leaky gut. And then this is a process that goes on and on and on and on until what? Until you stop eating and give it time to repair. And then it does. And so these doctors that are telling you never eat lectins, no. Just give yourself 5 hours between meals. Eat at 7 o'clock in the morning, eat at noon, and eat at 5, and you're done. Don't have snacks in between. Snacks kill, literally.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a sort of on topic. I kind of figured you were going to bring in fasting a little bit to this discussion, and we kind of have. Is there any reason or any health ailment where you shouldn't fast?
Let's see, an ailment like pregnancy.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Is that an ailment?
Maybe. I don't think so, but
to some women it would be.
Yes.
My wife was very sick when she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And she fasted a lot because she had so much nausea she couldn't eat anything. So I don't know. Maybe that's not an issue either.
And part of the reason that I'm asking, I know you are a big proponent for fasting. We talk about it a lot, and I think it's awesome. I do talk to some people whose doctors, and we brought this up, but I just want to mention it, who say, no, don't fast. You shouldn't fast.
Oh yeah, we were told that in medical school. We were told it's bad for you to fast. It shuts off your adrenal glands. It causes you to start eating yourself, autophagy. And they say, "Ooh, that's bad." But what they don't tell you is that eating yourself means taking all the toxic and bad stuff out of your body, like cancer cells and dead cells and senescent cells and amyloid plaques. So now they have this drug, $20,000 a dose, that gets rid of amyloid plaques. And all you got to do is fast for 10 days and it'll do a much better job, and free. Yeah, it's really ridiculous. Really ridiculous.
I will say, we haven't talked about this, and I won't say much about it, but have you seen all the new potential things that are going to be happening with natural health, with, cracking down on the FDA, all of these things that, could be happening now that this election is over and we have new people in place. You should be kind of excited about some of this, I would think.
I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it.
I know.
All these promises come up, but change isn't something that happens quickly unless there's a war of some kind, and I don't really want that. So
no.
Maybe some incremental changes and gradual changes or something may come about, which would be nice.
It would. Then we could talk about some things that normally we can't talk about on here. Say a few words that normally can't say. But I even saw, just the hope of, well, who knows? I won't even get into it. Okay, so let me see. I want to ask some questions that have come up. We'll see if there's anything specific to this topic. Okay.
Well, I can say other things that cause leaky gut.
Yeah.
Food allergies. If you're allergic to food, food sensitivities for, allergic reactions, that will also cause inflammation in your intestines. And then because of the inflammation, you lose cells and they don't get replaced. So you actually have holes in your gut and it worsens the problem. So, you can see how these kinds of gut problems are progressive. Like you have a little problem that creates a big problem, that creates a bigger problem, creates a bigger problem. And next thing you know, you got, ulcerative colitis or inflammatory bowel disease or irritable bowel syndrome or you go to a gastroenterologist, they go, oh, this is really bad. You have this for the rest of your life. It never goes away. And it's because they don't know about the cycle and how to break the cycle. But like you said, fasting is the way to break the cycle. It completely does. And then getting off the foods you're sensitive to or allergic to. Deficiencies of certain nutrients can cause leaky gut. If you don't have enough nutrients, there's one called folic acid or folate that's required for this rapid reproduction of cells. And the intestinal lining is very rapidly reproducing. When you're not eating, you get, they're quick. They'll replace themselves in minutes. And if you don't have enough folic acid, then the process is slow and you can end up with a leaky gut because of deficiencies, or any kind of inflammation. But guess what? Stress causes leaky gut. And this is really something we've discussed a lot on this program about stress. But why does stress cause leaky gut? Well, the stress hormones like cortisol are catabolic hormones and they cause breakdown and they prevent repair. They actually block you from repairing. So don't underestimate the power of stress. It has can do a lot of damage to your body, but more than like doing the damage, it prevents fixing the problems is what it does. And so, dealing with stress is important.
So Allison said, I met a gal yesterday that's in her 60s and can only eat 4 foods. She reacts to everything. She has a histamine reaction, uses an EpiPen. How would she go about fixing her issue? All the medical staff just tells her she won't live long. You are saying leaky gut. Can it be healed?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So, number one, find out why. There's a reason this happens. And it could be food. It could be like a certain food that started the process. Like sometimes gluten, someone's sensitive to gluten and they get a little inflammation in there. And that causes celiac disease. And then that causes deficiencies. And then that causes food sensitivities. And then the food sensitivities make it worse every time you eat that. Oh, now I can't eat that. Now I can't eat that. Now I can't eat that. I'm sorry, I had a cold last week. I had laryngitis last week, and I'm just getting over it. Yeah. So yes, it's fixable. You got to go back to why. Find out why. Do some testing. Find out which foods you're actually sensitive to. Look at IgE testing, IgA testing. Look for celiac disease. Fasting is a great way to repair the intestines, but you got to stop the inflammation too, or it just comes right back. So yeah, you can fast to fix it, but that fix might be temporary if you keep eating gluten, for example, if that's your problem. So finding out what the underlying problem is, and if it's lectins, it's lectins. You know what? I've had people tomatoes. They just get off tomatoes and everything goes away and they feel better and their inflammation goes down. Why? Well, tomatoes have a lectin called solanine, and some people react to it. It's not that uncommon. If you've ever heard of the deadly nightshades, if you were to eat the leaves, those lectins could kill you. But we eat the fruit like peppers and eggplant and tomatoes and potatoes. And the fruit, actually, if your potatoes have green in them, then they have solanine in them, and you may react to them. Some people, when there's a lot of it in there.
That's interesting.
So if you ever get potatoes and they're like they have green under the skin, that's not good. No, they should be thrown away. That's toxic potato.
Good to know. Okay. All right. Question here from Don. Can you comment on C15-0, also known as fatty 15, the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in over 90 years? I'm really questioning the validity of an advertisement.
Gosh, I can't comment on that because I don't know what it is. So C15, that's a 15 chain carbon fatty acid. Um, but no, I don't know what it is.
Okay. John said, I've been fighting a very challenging toe fungus, which feels like it's inside my foot now. There are all kinds of topical treatments, none of which seem to work. I'm on my second bottle of cycloperox medicine, and they admit on their website that only 12% of people actually end up successfully treating the fungus. Have you guys found anything that actually works to kill this kind of fungus? If not, do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, toenail fungus is an issue. I've had people that really, really worry about it, and they took an oral medication, fluconazole, and you have to take the fluconazole like periodically for a long period of time as your nail grows out, so that the fluconazole gets incorporated into the nail, and then it can then as your nail grows out, then the fungus can't grow in there because of the fluconazole. And so I've seen people do that. I had somebody had really bad nail fungus, and he used Vicks Vapor Rub, and he just like get a lot of it and put it all in there, all around there, and apparently the I think it's the eucalyptus oil in there, doesn't allow fungus to grow. So you got to be very consistent with it. Like put it on twice a day, cover it up, and as your toenail grows out, it'll grow without the fungus, and then you cut off the fungus part. So it's a tough problem, and it's always been a tough problem.
Just thinking of something else that we used. I might have to look it up.
Oh, tea tree oil. Tea tree
I was
oil.
almost thinking it was silver, but it wasn't silver. A silver might work. I don't know.
Silver might work. I don't know if silver. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if silver can get into the nail though, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'm gonna look. Okay. Let's see. Anonymous says, are you familiar with the methylene blue remedies and benefits?
Yes, yes, methylene blue. It's a methylator. That's one of the things that it does, and so it's got a lot of benefits of methylation, like SAMe, S-adenosylmethionine, also does. So yeah, methylene blue has been used for a lot of these things, and it's been used for fungal infections too, and it works really well.
Okay, let's see here. All right, Michelle says 2 nights ago, my left hip began buckling. Today, I began using a cane on the opposite side. I was concerned about falling. My right ankle had hurt for a couple of months, but my doctor claimed it was arthritis. I had buckled some with that too. What should I do?
Buckling is different. That it wouldn't be ascribed to arthritis. Buckling means weakness of some muscle in there. There's a whole bunch of muscles that hold that hip together and move it properly and everything. And if some of them aren't working, then you can get buckling. So buckling of the hip is weakness of a muscle, and so you got to look at why that's happening. And one of the things you may have to look at is a lumbar spine, the nerve roots. Make sure sometimes you have to do an MRI to look at the nerve roots and make sure there's no pinched nerve or anything like that. Sometimes people think that pain is caused by a slip disc or something like that, and that's actually pretty rare. Mostly pain is spasms or inflammation, arthritis, that kind of thing. Slip discs or pinched nerves cause numbness, weakness, and loss of function. And if you have that weakness, then start looking for a nerve problem.
Okay. Sandra says, should I go back to 3 meals daily? Have been eating 2 meals for lowering blood sugar since I want to gain weight.
Okay, lowering blood sugar, but you want to gain weight. Oh man. So yeah, you could do 3 meals a day to gain weight. A really good idea would be to work out pretty heavily and have a higher protein diet, and then you wouldn't need to eat 3 meals. You just have, like something like 50 grams of protein in a morning meal, um, and then working out during the day, and that allows you to put on muscle. The length of your life is best predicted at retirement by how much muscle mass you have. So maintaining muscle mass is actually kind of important, and might be a better way to gain weight than to gain fat. Because if you're eating 3 meals a day and you're eating carbs and all that stuff, your insulin goes up, and insulin tells you to hold on to fat. So you gain weight, but it's all fat and it's belly fat. And so your belly gets big, but it's not healthy. Yeah, if you want to gain weight and be healthy, you could do 3 meals a day, but it'd probably be better off just working out, and then eating a high protein meal or two a day.
I'm going to mention this. This is from Frank and Pat. They said Pat's only symptom 20 hours before her stroke was the buckling of the left leg.
20 hours before her stroke. Yeah, there's a weakness there. And so that might be the harbinger of a stroke or something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Marion said, where can a person get an English copy of the book written by Dr. Otto Warburg?
Oh,
I don't know.
That'd be interesting. Amazon.com. I don't know.
Yeah. Thrift books.
Thrift books.
Yeah. There's another one. Can't remember.
They have used books, eBay.
Yeah. Thrift books and Abe books was another one I have heard of. Those might be options. Anonymous said, what causes oxalates to develop in the body and how is it treated?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Oxalic acid is a breakdown product of metabolism. There's a lot of metabolic processes going on, and these organic acids are waste products. And so you have these oxalates that form. And if you tend to not be able to process oxalic acid very well, then you excrete it in your urine, which wouldn't be so bad, except that they combine together and form crystals, and you end up getting with calcium, and you end up getting stones, kidney stones from these oxalic acid. So build up. So we're often told that you should avoid eating things with oxalic acid, like don't eat spinach, which is pretty high in oxalic acid, or kale, leafy green vegetables. But that's really not where the oxalic acid comes from. It's really the metabolism. And having a really good supply of magnesium seems to be the best way to go. You don't want to necessarily take more calcium, but if you take magnesium, the magnesium in your intestines will bind oxalic acid, and then you won't absorb it. And so people that have the issue with some genetic problem where they don't process oxalic acid well, or they get kidney stones, then you can just add magnesium to the diet by taking a small dose of magnesium, 120 milligrams with every meal. And then that'll bind the oxalic acid in the intestines, and then you won't absorb it.
All right. Okay. I saw a question about Healthy Gut, which is a product that Barton has. And I wanted to see what the question was. Let's see. How long do we continue to take this? It says, I've been taking it since July. How can I know when I can stop taking this supplement? I've been taking a probiotic since 2009. Nope. Yeah, maybe 2009.
Okay, so Healthy Gut Restore is a little different than just a probiotic. It has a probiotic, a prebiotic, which is the food for the probiotic bacteria. And then it has digestive enzymes. And so the enzymes help you to digest proteins, especially people that don't have enough enzymes or aren't digesting proteins very well. So how do you know? Well, It depends on why you're taking it. If you're taking it for digestion, you may need continued support. If you're taking it to repair, like the lining of your intestines, then a period of time, maybe even only a month or two. So it's not a specific amount of time. It's depends on your need. So if you're repairing a leaky gut, give yourself a couple of months, repair the leaky gut, and then stop taking it.
All right. Frank and Pat said, age mid 40s, diagnosed with a fibrocystic breast. When can you suggest a possible natural way to reduce this condition? What supplements or protocols should be considered? Let me know what information you need that would be helpful.
Okay, so fibrocystic breasts, that is a dense breasts, and it's fibrous and there's cysts that form. And that tends to be due to an imbalance in the estrogens. Part of it is estrogen progesterone imbalance, but there's actually 3 different kinds of estrogens. And when those are imbalanced, then you get the cysts forming more easily. It also, this issue is also associated with having fibroid tumors in the uterus and cysts on the ovaries. So it's not just the fibrocystic breast. This is a systemic whole body problem, right? So what to do for it? There's been several studies on iodine. It turns out that the conversion of one form of estrogen to another the enzyme requires iodine. And women need more iodine than men. So goiters are much more common in women than men because of that need that women have. And so taking extra iodine has been shown there have been studies on can you get rid of fibrocystic breasts? They used to call it fibrocystic breast disease. Now it's a condition, a syndrome, not a disease. So the question is, can you get rid of it by taking iodine? And the answer is apparently yes. So there's 3 things that you should take. Iodine. And of course, you're going to ask the amount of iodine because iodine comes in these, 15 microgram quantities up to 25 milligram quantities. That's more than 1,000 times difference in these doses. So do I take the micrograms or do I take the milligrams? What level are we looking at here? The amount that you take is in the milligram quantities. So, and they usually come in like 12.5 milligrams, that kind of thing. And then you take it for a couple of weeks, and then you just take it once a week after that. You don't have to take it every single day. But to get enough for the breasts, at first take it every day, and after a couple of weeks, just start taking it once a week, and that's okay. So that's iodine. Selenium. Selenium is required for these enzymes as well, for the conversion for thyroid partly, and also for breast tissue. So if you get enough selenium, generally that comes in around 200 micrograms, and that's about right. 200 micrograms a day is good for selenium. And then the third one is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a hormone, and it's a steroid hormone like estrogen, and it helps regulate your steroid hormones. So it's important to get adequate levels of vitamin D. And the level, what would get you to the normal range is anything between 5,000 units to 10,000 units. That would be about right.
Let's see. I don't know if I can do that one. Sally says, back to the green potatoes. Can they be eaten after they're cooked?
I don't know. I know they have solanine in them, but I don't know if solanine is destroyed by cooking. Interesting.
I have to look that up. Okay.
I'll look it up.
Okay, Diane got her 4 tests done. I'm going to ask this carefully. Gary said, I don't recall any discussion about that C word that we can't say. Back when the government shut down and they started to mandate that people get these shots. And he doesn't recall us doing much of a discussion about those. And what is your opinion on getting those now?
I'm getting what now?
The things that you do so we avoid the governmental shutdown that happened in 2020.
Being poked with a needle?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, um, I think it's ridiculous that it's even offered after all the research that's coming out that's showing how dangerous it is. And it's dangerous. It's not just something that, occasionally people get problems. We're talking the Harvard study, 20%. It's a lot. So, there's no way. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it turns out selenium is not destroyed by cooking. So cooking your potatoes does not help.
That's good to know. All right. I guess you got to throw them away.
Yeah.
Luckily, they're not terribly expensive, or hopefully you're growing them in your gardens at home. Okay. Iman said, I have pain in left hip area. I think it's sciatica problem flaring up again. Been doing workouts in the pool. Any suggestions?
Okay. If the pain is in your left hip area, it's probably not sciatica. Sciatica is a very specific nerve pain that is like kind of like a pinched or inflamed nerve that runs down the leg to your big toe. And so generally it has to cross like two joints, like your hip and your knee, or your knee and your ankle, to be like a nerve pain. So it's probably not sciatica. There's a lot of reasons why you could have hip pain. And some have like what's called a piriformis syndrome. And there's like 7 different bursa that are around there. You could have bursitis in any one of those bursa around there. And then you have all of the muscles that could be pulled because there's a lot of different muscles there. So hip pain, number one thing to do is find out why, find out what it is. And most often I've found useful physical therapists, because they know how to isolate the muscles. I go, oh, this, no, not that, no, not that, no. Oh, do you have piriformis syndrome? And they can tell you what it is and then what to do about it. And they're actually really good at that. So the most benefit, I don't think sciatica. I often send people, there's a chiropractor in town that I work with a lot, that people with sciatica, he's really good with them. And so if it's a nerve pain, then if it's a nerve problem like sciatica, then that's what I generally do. But if it's a muscle pain or you don't know what it is, then see if you can get to a physical therapist.
Yeah. Susan had asked, how can I lower my C-reactive protein?
CRP, C-reactive protein. Okay, C-reactive protein is a marker for inflammation, but it's not the kind of inflammation that we think about, like hot, red, swollen, tender. Although that is, like, if you have an infection, it's going to go up. But very often, no infections, your sedimentation rate is low, your white blood cell count is low, and yet the CRP is high. And so, why? When the liver has a struggle of some kind, it's called cellular distress. And what's the distress from? Well, there's all kinds of things, but people with pre-diabetes, for example, they get high CRP. And so CRP is associated with heart disease, and everybody says, oh, that's a marker for heart disease. No, it's not a marker for heart disease. It's a marker for cellular distress of the liver. And by the way, if you have like type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome, it's going to cause high CRP, and it's going to cause heart disease, by the way. But there's no direct connection that, oh, I got to get my CRP down. Okay, so here's what you need to do. Find out why the CRP is high. So have tests done. And look, do you have fatty liver? Do you have insulin resistance? So do the 4 tests that we talked about for diabetes: insulin, C-peptide, glucose, and hemoglobin A1C. Those 4 tests are going to tell you if you have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance elevates your CRP. Other metabolic problems or toxic problems, anything toxic in the liver is also going to cause the CRP to go up. And then you also have to think about inflammation. So the CRP is so general that you have to be kind of careful, because if you have toxins or nutrient deficiencies or infectious diseases of any kind, it could be a virus somewhere in your body, or a bacteria or something like that, or even metabolic problems, all of them raise the CRP.
All right. A couple of sessions ago, you mentioned, Dr. Saunders, that 5 would be a good number for the fasting insulin lab test. Mine is only at 2.7. What does this tell me? Thank you.
That tells you that your pancreas is not making a lot of insulin. And that's often a good thing. But if your blood sugar is high, so if when you did that insulin test, it was 2.7, and then your blood glucose was 150, you've got a problem. Your pancreas is not putting out enough. You have type 1.5 diabetes. 1.5 meaning it's 1, not making sufficient insulin, but it's not 0 insulin. And then insulin resistance is type 2. So that's why it's 1.5, because it's kind of in between. So if your insulin level is 2.7 and your blood glucose is between 70 and 90, you might be awesome. That might be just perfect, because you're super sensitive to insulin.
Yeah. Okay. Karen says, tinnitus, how to make it go away.
That's a big problem. I've been working on this for decades. I've had patients, and we've tried everything. I even went online one time with a patient, and I bought a supplement, and this supplement said guaranteed to get rid of tinnitus. And so I bought it for him personally, and it was pretty expensive because he wasn't going to be able to buy it. So I bought it for him, and I gave it to him. He took it. He said, didn't do a thing. So then I went back and I said, okay, you're guaranteed. It didn't work. And they say, well, you have to send back the bottle and the unused portion. Well, I didn't have the bottle, so I just ate it. It was a scam in the first place. And there's so many scams around tinnitus because people want to get rid of it. Yeah. And I haven't found a way. I did I did see a study a few years ago about hyperbaric oxygen helping tinnitus.
Yeah. Say, and in fact, I think Joe, the founder of Barton Publishing, experienced tinnitus at one time. Was that right? Do you remember that? I don't know. I should ask him what worked for him. But yeah, I had seen that same thing about hyperbaric, which is very interesting. Tell us again. We did an episode where we talked about this, but what happens in the hyperbaric chamber?
So tinnitus is not a problem with the earballs. It's actually a problem in the brain, in the central nervous system. And so when things aren't working quite right, then you get this sense of, oh, I'm hearing something that's not there. And it could be inflammation in the brain, and that's probably what it is. Or the brain doesn't have enough circulation and not enough oxygen levels, not enough energy levels. So the hyperbaric oxygen, you go into hyperbaric oxygen, and it's forcing oxygen into tissues that normally don't have very much oxygen. So it's putting oxygen in solution. So it dissolves in the liquid. The water in your blood is actually dissolving oxygen and not just the hemoglobin. And so because of that, when you have areas of the blood or areas like of the brain that aren't getting enough oxygen, all of a sudden they're getting enough oxygen and they start making energy and their mitochondria start coming back to life and things start functioning again. And so if there's areas of low oxygen, hyperbaric's wonderful.
Yeah. Homer said, I've been taking Healthy Heart Plus for 2 months. Does it help clean out your arteries?
I guess the best answer to that I could say is no.
Okay.
Any other questions? No, let me explain. There was a study done in India recently, fairly recently, that they took people who had heart disease and they wanted to clean out their arteries. So they put them on a super high fiber, vegan, low fat diet. They had exercise program, and they took the supplements, a lot of like what we have in the Healthy Heart, and they did meditation, 40 minutes a day. And at the end of the study, they regressed. They reversed their heart disease between 20 and 50%. That's quite remarkable. So, and it was consistent, like everybody did. So they looked at what's called a regression analysis to look at which factors were the most influential here. Was it the diet? No, it wasn't the diet. Was it the exercise? No, it wasn't the exercise. Was it the supplements? No, it wasn't supplements. No, the meditation, 40 minutes of meditation a day made all the difference. Why is that? Well, we just talked about it earlier, cortisol. That cortisol that destroys your gut or doesn't allow your gut to heal also doesn't allow your heart to heal. So if you have stress hormones, then you're not going to heal your heart. But if you're meditating 40 minutes a day and lowering those stress hormones, that'll give your body time to heal.
All right. Okay, Diane said the results is hemoglobin A1C 6.6, insulin 37, fasting range 140. My doctor said they only do C-peptide when you're tested for diabetes the first time.
Type 1, yeah. Okay, well then that's okay, because the insulin in this case, being 37, is really high. It should be about 5, 2.7 to about 7. So because you have such high insulin, along with your hemoglobin A1C is in the diabetic range, and that would give you a average blood glucose reading somewhere around 150, average over like 3 months. So you have diabetes and you have serious insulin resistance. So doing phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit would be the best way to get that insulin level down. And that will fix your problem. So the problem is not really the sugar, because your average blood sugar is not really that high. You're not 200 or 300 or 500. It's just 150. It's not that bad. So really, but your insulin is really high. So your problem is insulin. Why is that important? Because it's insulin that causes you to lose your nervous system and to get dementia and to lose your eyeballs and to get amputations and to lose your kidneys. It's the insulin that's the problem. So this is really important to get the insulin down. And the way you do that is to do phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit.
And you can find that at bartonwebinar.com. Use code webinar25 to save 25%. Ty says, do I have to take K2 with vitamins D3?
You know what? It's a good idea. If you're not getting enough vitamin K, if you're not getting foods that are fermented foods have vitamin K, or vitamin K1 is found in green vegetables. If you aren't getting enough vitamin K, I think it's a good idea when you're taking vitamin D to add vitamin K.
Okay. And Leslie says, how many milligrams of iodine for dense breasts did you recommend? I didn't catch it.
Well, I said like 12.5, but if it comes in 10, sometimes you get a dropper, and like every drop is a milligram or whatever. You did around 10 milligrams, that's fine. But I know the pills come in like the tiny ones, microgram doses, and then there's the 12.5 milligram and a 25 milligram, and 25 milligram is just too much, and 12.5 is plenty to fix the problem.
Okay. And do you recommend the flu shot?
No, you know what? I've done a lot of research on the flu shot, and I had the travel clinic in Santa Barbara where I had all the vaccines. I was like the only one in Santa Barbara for a while that had yellow fever vaccine, and typhoid fever vaccine and all those, all the ones that you don't normally get. I had all of them. So I researched every one of the vaccines. And the flu vaccine is very interesting, so that when they analyze it, the way they do it is using a relative risk ratio. And so relative to the people that don't have the vaccine. But if you look at the absolute numbers, it's very interesting. About 50% of the population gets the flu shot. And every year, about 50% of the people that go to the hospital with the flu have had the flu shot. So if you look at the absolute numbers, there's absolutely no benefit to the flu shot at all. And there's risks associated with it. You could get Guillain-Barré syndrome. I've had several cases of that from the flu shot. Neuropathy, it causes nerve damage to your feet, hands, and it can be deadly. It's kind of rare, but it does. But neuropathy is a problem. So because of the small risk and zero benefit, I would say no. I wouldn't do it. Put it
All
that
right.
way.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Dr. Saunders. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
All right.
And thank all of you for being here today. You can find more information about all of these webinars, past webinars at bartonwebinar.com, and use code webinar25 to save